Ooh-wee. What's up, back on the pod? It's been a minute, not gonna lie. We got loads to talk about. Been roaming around, the mental mind state. Not much of the physical world, not as much as I would like, but hey, where we roam, we go, So, that being said, I gotta find a launching point on where to start. Let's just start with the happenings of the world, alright? People raised $4 million for Charlie Kirk. Why can't we, assemble, or people in Europe, why hasn't anybody assembled, not even money, but just like minds, hey, let's put our heads together and figure something out, like the whole unholy war in the Holy Land. As you know, all land is holy. If you watch me, you know this, all land is holy, right? The Native Americans, the First Nation people most specifically, did not need books or anything like that to view all land as holy, all land as sacred, right? So hug your tree in your front yard, kiss a leaf, all right? For real. It's just amazing that the world has tolerated such stupidness, such muddiness for so long. Absolutely amazing. Going back to Charlie Kirk, obviously, actually I wouldn't say obviously, because a lot of people are being deceived, but this is a distraction. I seen a video. Charlie Kirk knew he was gonna die about a few years ago, and that kind of brings me to secret societies, and ultimately the power of our nose, the power of intuition, right? I've always had good intuition. I can smell evil. I can smell when deceit is cooking, right? I've had a lot of nosebleeds as a kid, right? When something bad is in the air, I taste blood, right? And there's a lot of secret societies. Especially the most notable one is the Illuminati, which I believe, I guess, that Charlie Kirk was a part of at least one of these secret societies. Because if he really wanted to debate people, he would be debating about the hottest topics, not the political topics that were made hot for political purposes. That being said, like the Kundalini energy, right? The goddess that lives within us, the base of our spine, and ultimately, what even is a god? An embodiment of a certain idea. Let me take y'all to the idea realm, the realm of ideas, right? Ultimately, if one searches for the anomaly wherever they go, in every realm, then enlightenment would be theirs. Ultimately, enlightenment has been marketed as something to attain and not something that you are. The first rule of enlightenment is everybody's enlightened. And that kind of makes you laugh, it makes you chuckle, and almost, be a little frustrated, but that's ultimately motivation, right? But we only, know of a few people who reach true enlightenment, which I think is a bunch of bullcrap. Think about it. If you want to, say you have a goal, you want to juggle in a month, right? Or you want to do a backflip. I went to a trampoline park, and I wanted to learn how to backflip, not on a trampoline, but on solid ground. And I ended up doing it. After a lot of practice, I was so excited. So translate this to life, your God or consciousness wants to live, right? And when a baby is born, boom, that is that goal achieved. That is enlightenment achieved. You are happy. We are happy because we were born, right? Happiness, enlightenment is our natural state. That's our natural state of mind. I mean, think about it. If you're God, man, I want to live truly, man. I want to live, And you fulfill, just like, hey, I want to juggle by the end of the month. When you do, you're like, oh my God, I'm happy. When somebody is born, you're like, oh my God, I'm happy. Enlightenment and happiness is our natural state of being. And that is why the first rule of enlightenment is everybody is enlightened. And ultimately, that is the creation. That is what led to the creation of, most notably, the Illuminati. Because they believe they're illuminating the third eye, when this is completely opposite. You know, you got people. Scratch what I was about to say, right? These worldly players, right? People on the world stage. They almost represent different timelines, right? Different, almost like how gods, like a god of the sun represents the virtues of the sun. Sort of how people can represent the auras of different timelines. Me, I choose to represent the original timeline. But then, of course, you got people dabbling in science and all that, you know, deceitful stuff. Not saying that science is deceitful, but when it isn't combined in a holistic sense, it becomes deceitful to the person studying it. It's like all religions of the world have truth in it. Put them together, you get the key. Hey, I got the key, you know? You get that metaphor? But yeah, you got these different musicians, they represent sort of different timelines, different vibes and stuff. If kind of like entities, I should say. Which brings me back to the discussion of what is a God. Truly, what is a God? If God is I am that I am, identity itself, right? We have an identity, therefore we are all gods. But we knew this, right? But also we have a mortal form. Are we demigods? That is kind of the debate in the air. Are we gods? Are we demigods? You know, in the Bible it says, yea, are gods. I said, yea, are gods. You are children of the Most High. You are sons of the Most High, right? So this information has been around for a while. But even scratching Yeshua's words, right? We have words older than this, you know, from philosophers of the Greeks, you know. But even scratch those people, you got Buddha, which in my mind is the God of the golden light. You know, Jesus is the God of self in my mind. Self. He realized, okay, we're all connected, right? We're all consciousness. Somebody needs to embody what consciousness truly is, and so he had to believe in himself before anybody else did. That takes me to Uncle Iroh in Avatar: Last Airbender, where I believe Jesus was an avatar of the Supreme God, I guess, if you will. I don't really believe in hierarchy. Thus, the Supreme God kind of eats itself, and that's the Ouroboros in the magical philosophy. But that's another story. But yeah, you know, we're all avatars at the base of it. Everyone, even Yeshua, Jesus, Christ Jesus Yeshua. I like to call him Christ Jesus Yeshua because it puts all of his names together. The Jesus, which is sort of his son God form. Yeshua, which is sort of his mystic form, and then Christ, which is his purified form. So Christ, Jesus, Yeshua. We're all avatars of the elements, right? We can, and just how, you know, these different worldly players, they represent different timelines of philosophies. There are philosophies of Earth. You know, if you dabble in the elements, I suppose, or just any realm of thought, you begin to create a sense of the aura around ideas, right? You know, and then when you think about Earth, you kind of train yourself in the philosophy of Earth, the philosophy of wind, which represents free thought. The philosophy of Earth represents sturdiness and being rooted in what is truth, you know. The philosophy of fire is respect, you know, and life. Fire is alive almost, you know. And we all have that inner fire within, and based on how we conduct ourselves, it's almost like that fire is infused with us, and that is the creation of our aura, which, You know, our auras interact with each other, and ultimately is an extension of our emotions. You know, when you walk in a room and somebody's fucking mad, you can tell anger's in the room, right? You know, when somebody's joyful, when you experience joy, when you laugh, you feel warm. You feel warmer. It bring that back to science, which can be deceitful, but also cannot be deceitful. When you experience joy, right, that releases hormones. These hormones, anything moving is gonna create warmth, right? So these hormones, you know, they're gonna create a warm sense in your body, and that's ultimately the science behind emotions, you know. But also, I wanna take that thought, you know, and bring it over to the idea of the First Nation people, and ultimately just the vibe and the atmosphere of the world, right? You know, when you go to another country, or you go to France, you know, you based off how you see, based off how you know France, you feel the vibe in the air. This feels like France if I ever seen it, you know. This is croissants are in the air. I can just feel it, you know. Romance is in the it's called the romantic city because a lot of people go there for romance. Their aura spread into the atmosphere, and that ultimately creates the vibe in the air, right? But unfortunately, governments can do this too, because as I said, you know, the First Nation people, they did not need papers or anything to be like, hey, yeah, this is our land. Yeah, this is our land. They held it in their minds. They held a lay of the land in their minds, right? They didn't have maps or anything like that. So, governments create the vibe, can help create the vibe in the air. Think about it. If you're on the age of exploration, right, and you come to a new land, boom, that is untouched by any other being, especially if it's new. But you know, it's like, oh my God, I smell discovery in the air. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you go to North Korea, you know, or a communist country, you go there, you can feel the lack of freedom in the air. You know, if you imagine like kind of how or scratch that, chi can also often be represented as a reflection of starlight, right? And if you take that and you kind of make it more thought-based, more lighter, I suppose, then you kind of have like bubbles in the air of ideas. That ultimately creates the atmosphere of whatever land you're on, you know. When you go to it's like perfect example. When you go to other people's houses, the smell in their house, that can be translated to the smell of the land is cultivated by the people and its governments and the beliefs ultimately. So this highlights the fact how we can read energy. We can go somewhere and read the energy. When we go to school, we can, all the kids suffer, you know, all their suffering and just, I hate school. You can feel it in the air, right? It gives people panic attacks in those boxed up rooms, you know what I'm saying? I want to roam around to the fact of architecture and boxes and stuff like that. Back in the day, architecture was specifically designed to enhance frequencies in the air. The waves in the air that move, the bubbles on top of the waves move the bubbles of ideas, and that creates the reflection of the ocean with the foam. Understand what I'm saying? You know, you have Gothic, even cathedrals. Forget about, you know, forget about all that. You have cathedrals. Forget about it. You got cathedrals specifically designed to enhance the music of the choir. And this obviously can be reversed to what architecture we see now. Oh yeah, we got to keep a quarterly. We got to keep our quarterly sum, you know, tight. We got to keep it tight. We got to keep our profit margins good, you know. So we make cheap stuff, you know. Like tables have become so cheap. Cars are even cheaper than they were originally made. It's just cheaper metal. Everything has become cheaper and trashier and plasticky and fake. The houses, you know, it doesn't allow for energy or aura to flip in, to ride the waves, man, to shred, you know. So ultimately, all this, what I'm roaming around on, it all comes back to metaphysics, right? As you know, or maybe not. But you know, sometimes I listen to music and people are like, yeah, my life's a movie, man. My life's a movie. You know, that kind of essence of my life as a movie can be portrayed as how history is prone to repeat itself. It's like, you know, or deja vu. Right? This has happened before. My life's a movie. I feel something in the air, right? And I mean by this is the world we can trap ourselves in our own metaphysical traumas that we have not healed. You know, you got, like, for a good example is history, how history repeats itself. You have, you know, the metaphysics of a revolution. Okay, you're gonna have people you're always gonna have people, right? And then you're gonna have people who want to try to sway the people, and then you have a person or a group of people who are like, hey, we are free. And that is the metaphysics of a revolution, right? You know, you have the metaphysics of war. It's often based in whose fault is it? Who is to blame? And well, they killed us, so we kill them. They stole this from us. I'm gonna steal this from them. That is the metaphysics of war. If you understand what I'm saying, it's not easy concepts. I mean, let's just think about how far humanity has come. I mean, think about it. Like back in the day, the only educated people were the clergy or the people of church and the noblemen. Everybody else, they did not read. You know, and then we started learning how to read and stuff like that, you know. But ultimately, I want to bring this to the fact that, you know, some people, you know, let's talk of generational trauma, right? You know, as we heal ourselves, you know, you got yoga, meditation, all these new age sort of philosophies coming to fruition, right? In order to heal trauma. You know, we got trauma in our own lives, childhood trauma. You got to unlock your inner child. The inner child has the kingdoms to the heaven, the keys to the kingdoms of heaven, whatever, right? Which may be true, which is probably true, because if you go back to what I said, our natural state is enlightenment. Our natural state is happiness, because we are God manifested. You understand what I'm saying? That is beautiful. So, taking that back to healed trauma, you got some people, maybe even my own, but some people whose entire bloodline, their ancestry, they were peasants. Their ancestors were peasants, over and over again in the medieval times, in the times of the Knights Templar, in those conquests. What word am I looking for? Requisitioning? You know, in the conquests of, you know, hey, we're gonna convert these people. That's the metaphysics. That's another metaphysics of conquest. You know, I wanna convert these people. Hey, you know, we're free. You know, you got the people of the revolutionary heart stand up. Hey, we're free. You know, stuff like that. But ultimately, you know, some people, they came from peasants. Peasants made peasants into the immigrants and to poor people. And then they finally learned how to read. And then after a few generations, boom, we're born. Fully able to read everything. Able to read flipping energy. But, you know, we've always been able to do that, right? It's not like, you know, we lose our first language. Our first language, I believe, is energy, is intention. You know, like I said, when somebody walks in angry, you can see their intention, man. They're flipping angry. Don't mess with them, you know? Or you go to a concert, the energy of the concert is ecstatic, you know what I'm saying? But if you go to an orchestra, it's going to be more, you know, type of energy. You understand what I'm saying? So ultimately, humanity is just becoming smarter, and ultimately, we are always too smart for our own good. Because like I said in the Bible, yea, are gods. Are we demigods or are we gods? We have a mortal form. Are we demigods or are we gods? If we make heaven so much, if we make earth so much like heaven, people won't want to die anymore. Seems like people kind of want to die right now. Oh, take me to heaven. Heaven is false, man. Heaven is a state of soul. It's a state of mind, a state of soul. You know? So if we make heaven on earth, you know, people are going to want to stay, and then boom, our life expectancy is going to expand. But let me add this: if we were actually using things that were akin to the nature of nature, right? Who knows? Maybe we wouldn't be dying at 75, right? Maybe dying at 125. I mean, think about it. With just vaccines, we're injecting nasty stuff into our bloodstream. Just fungus, metals, minerals, just nasty stuff. Stuff that is not lab-made medicine, right? But what if Reiki practitioners, Reiki healers were in hospitals? How much would that change? Because it is real. It is a proven form of healing by science, by Dr. Usui, who meditated on a mount for 20 days. Might have been 21. But yeah, I mean, there's no telling. If we made vaccines that were not made from unnatural things, but made vaccines as like concoctions, tinctures, herbal remedies, who knows, maybe our immune system, like how peasants were created into us now, but you had natural remedies ultimately becoming infused into our immune system, where we won't need vaccines or anything so unnatural. Like, the human body is amazing. Oh my God. You know, I can just imagine pulling in chi, pulling in energy right into my head. And I can see it, I can feel it, I can feel joy, I can love it. My body is more vitalized, and it's, it works. Ultimately, it works. All the hoo-ha voodoo crap ultimately works. So, New Age spirituality is only titled as New Age because we have old age philosophies that fear their own derooting. We have people walking around fearing that their own philosophy is not right. Who cares? Who cares? Let's just, you know, like I said, nobody, if we were born here, if we're avatars of the earth who emerged from dust, being given the breath of life from an ultralight being, if that's the case, nobody told us the rules. You know, oh yeah, go that way, you'll end up on the other side of the earth. But, you know, like 5,000 years ago, if you went that way, you'd fall off the map. But thanks to Christopher Columbus, we got a round thing. But who knows, if you go in the way of the Pacific Ocean, you might find a whole new land. I don't know. There's no rules. That's what I'm saying, is we make the rules. We are too smart for our own good. We are making the rules. This is the sacred loop of which we walk on. And that's how history repeats itself, by our own neglect, by our own negligence of metaphysical trauma. Like the trauma of a revolution, the metaphysics of a revolution. You know, even the Salem witch trials. Oh my God. Oh my God. The Salem witch trials. Actually imagine those times. I think we are overlooking those times way more than we are looking at other times. I don't know if I said that right, but we need to focus on the Salem witch trials. We had people screaming, witches, you're a witch, burn you to hell. If you're burning me, then you are making hell right here. So, ultimately, magic and science need to find, magic and technology, they need to find the middle path, because we live in the Goldilocks zone. The golden sun right there. The Goldilocks zone. The middle way of the golden brick road. If technology and magic don't find a groove, then humanity's gonna have to make a move. And it can't be on autopilot anymore. You know, the mind of peasantry. And being told what to do. We're not peasants anymore. Most of us all live at the quality, the standard of life of those medieval kings that our ancestors were taking orders from. Who had astrologers, astronomers, studying the stars in order to know when to attack in war. And this, based on a meditation I have had, I believe the stars are a reflection of our own collective metaphysical plot line. It's our own story above us. You know? But that's another thought for another day. This is getting kind of long, so I'm gonna try to find to wrap it up. But yeah, ultimately you got people coming out as airbenders. I'm an airbender. I'm pretty sure we all are. Yeah, which is a huge reflection of what have we been doing for 2,000 years. Because as you know, the story of Yeshua, he did some miraculous stuff that seemed pretty magical, you know. So yeah, that's I think that's all I got. But yeah, just forget about magic and airbending, right? Let's go to the scientific approach, which is making its way in the groove of magical thought. And that is, you know, our heart emits a huge electromagnetic field. Our brain emits an electromagnetic field. Our bodies are electromagnetic. This tree right here emits an electromagnetic field. When I touch it, we are transferring ions to each other. When I touch the grass, we are transferring ions to each other. No need for Mother Earth. It's a good thought. It's a nice warm thought of a Mother Earth, but we need not a Mother Earth to feel the ions transferring between us. Our symbiotic relationship. So, using our minds, we can bend the air currents. But it's really just electromagnetism. I remember I was a kid, I always tried to put the magnets that repelled from each other together. And I always tried to see the field. And in a way I kind of could. But it was harder to see, and this is what I think people refer to as the sight of the third eye, is seeing the electromagnetism throughout the world. But anyways, going back to the magnets, I would always try to push them together, but they always force away from each other. So using our electromagnetism, we can enact a force upon the world. So I guess reality is kind of like a mesh between Star Wars, The Matrix, X-Men, maybe How to Train Your Dragon in a more mental state, you know, taming the animalistic side of us. Because ultimately we're spiritual beings and a flesh and blood body, bones and flesh. And as you know, I'm going back to waves. Our mind emits gamma waves. The same waves that are said to cause radiation and be harmful, but our brain emits it. It's our focus waves. So that's food for thought. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're a human temple full of spirit, you know. And whatever spirit out of the spirit at large, the soul, the mind at large, we focus on the most is that's the family we become. Excuse me. So if you focus on Christ, you'll become a Christo. You focus on the sun, you'll become a sun, avatar of the sun. If you focus on none of these and focus on yourself and focus on self, you will reach likely the same level as Jesus. You know, all is self. If I focus on self, I become that's an Ouroboros creating that portal through time. But you know, the moment is always present, so we don't really need a portal. it's just a fun word. It's a fun idea. You know, when we move our mind, it kind of like bring back to electromagnetism, right? Our minds emit electric current when we think. When we connect ideas, we can see how they magnetize towards each other, which is amazing. But doing that, you know, seeing how ideas magnetize towards each other, we can almost connect all mythologies, all religions together as one truth, in which we place right here as self. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Oh, I'm trying to find an end to this podcast, but oh, I want to talk about dreams, but I think I might have to do that for another video. But dreams are so mystical. But yeah, so I guess, you know, how we connect, you know, based on when we connect certain ideas together, it creates almost like an opportunity for us, which is, I guess, the portal of Ouroboros. So, which is, I guess, formed by one eating the self. When we consume our own thoughts, we're sort of eating ourself, an extension of ourself. Thus, our head is extended into a body coming back to meet us, and boom, that is the sacred loop of the present moment. Yeah, and then that portal, I guess, if you will, it can be maneuvered with. You know, when we focus on success, that portal of the moment, your own magnetism is going to try to draw you towards activities that are successful, or repel you from activities that do not bring success. So I guess the conclusion of this is magic, technology, science, they're going to find their groove one way or another, which is pretty cool, if I do say so myself. I mean, humanity, we've come a long way. Now everybody's living, like I said, lavishly like a king. So, and I guess if you, going back to the mind, if you focus on the idea of royalty, you know, then that will kind of present, I guess, habits of a royal, you know, a nobleman and stuff like that. You focus on royalty, you know, you begin to, you know, I don't do that, you know, stuff like that, you know, just watching what you put in your body, because ultimately back in the day, the peasants ate the bread and the kings ate all the pheasants and chicken and all that good stuff, steak and stuff. But yeah, so we've come a long way, and we're electromagnetic beings in an electromagnetic reality. So we're gonna see, I mean, the world is always changing, right? But when we're actually living in the change, it's so surreal. It's so surreal in the sense that we almost can have deja vu. Some people are having deja vu. But it's so surreal in a sense that you just become filled with what you were filled at birth. And that is enlightenment and happiness, which is our natural state. Need not 50 days of fasting to reach enlightenment. But it definitely helps you preserve the energy of enlightenment, no doubt. Energy is cultivated, energy is preserved, energy is built over time. Like I guess the analogy is Rome wasn't built in a day. You know, so you can't build your dream life, your dream self, you know, like that. You know, we don't have no infinity stones, but we do have correlated elemental paths coordinated with our fingers, which is awesome. So yeah, so I guess the conclusion is just be curious. Make up your own things. Make your own philosophies. Find your own path. You walk the path, nobody else. So yeah, stay curious. I'm trying to think of a quote I can say. I'm trying to think of a Mark Twain quote. I know he said something about like like a person who doesn't read, it's harder to prove, like, it's harder to convince somebody they've been fooled than to convince them they're a fool or something like that. It's easier to convince somebody they're a fool than they've been fooled or something like that. I don't really know. I guess I'll find a Bob Marley quote. He said, I don't have that type of richness. My richness is life forever. And yeah, that's the quote I'll leave y'all off with. Please understand the great times we're in. Like I said, when we're actually in global change is so surreal. In decades, we're gonna see people, families, airbending in the morning for fun. Maybe even new games. Tag might be changing to catch Kid Kunta, the one full of gold. Because ultimately we're all full of gold, all full of sunshine. But yeah, that's really all I got. Is we're in the moments of global change, and it is so surreal. It is amazing. I could just hug everything. But ultimately, not everybody wants a hug, so that's where discernment comes in. And yeah, that's all I got, man. That's all I got. Just immerse yourself in nature. Nature is the first temple, right? And then enough time in nature, we're like, oh my God, we're the second temple, or whatever. If you want to follow such linearity, but nature was the first temple, the trees was the first temple, and we were also the temple, and that is why my family business is called Land Zen, because it kind of sounds like land is zen, which is kind of true. So when you breathe, imagine like trees feeling breeze, or imagine the trees moving here with the breeze, and ultimately just stay curious. That's all I got. I mean, like I said, we're in times of global change. It is so surreal. I could hug everything, but not everybody wants a hug. So yeah, I gotta wrap this up. I'm gonna end off with the quote I already said. I don't have that type of richness. My richness is life forever. Stay roaming around, stay curious. Peace, light, and love. I love all y'all. I love hopping on here. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. So yeah, just immerse yourself in nature. That's the first temple. Whatever God you place here spreads around like incense, and that's kind of how you become. And yeah, I'm gonna share a meditation. Yeah. I'm gonna share a meditation. This meditation, imagine snowflakes on your palm. Everybody has, quirks, but we're beyond our quirks. We're beyond our depth, right? So try to nose out what pattern you have on your palms. Imagine snowflakes on your palms. Place them on your knees. Feel feel snowflakes being charged up. Like imagine like the northern lights charging up these snowflakes, and that's gonna send chi into your body, into your bloodstream, and it's gonna meet in the center. And in the center is gonna be the rotating sphere. The depiction in the book of Ezekiel of the angel, that rotating sphere. You know what I'm talking about. So you're gonna imagine all that chi being charged up from the northern lights into the snowflakes being charged up into there. And then it's gonna spread throughout your body into a micro snowflake if you want to variate this, or you can just end it off with the snowflakes on the knees, rotating sphere in the middle, a micro snowflake on whatever intense. You can even put the micro snowflake on your forehead and a third snowflake on your back, and this should get your whole body aglow. And if you want to increase this meditation's vitality, then put the tongue on the roof of your mouth and squeeze your butthole on every inhale, and you will feel it, you will love it, you will be full of light. And that's ultimately what meditation is bringing as much light into your being, as much joy and warmth and stuff like that. So yeah, wow, happy to be on here again, man. Stay roaming around wherever you can, however you can, whether meditation or on the land, doesn't matter. I don't have that type of richness. My richness is life forever. Bob Marley said that. And yeah, that's all I got. This is very enjoyable. And peace, light, and love. I love y'all, man. Like I said, I could give a hug to the world. But not everybody wants a hug, so that's where discernment comes in, and ultimately training your body. And yeah, so I guess the concluding points: are we gods? Are we demigods? yeah, I guess that's it. we came a long way. Treat yourself like a royal, but don't be posh about it. And yeah, that's all I got. Peace, light, and love. So much peace, so much love, so much peace, so much love, so much peace. I could splurge out words forever. Yeah, so free your tongue, free your mind, and yeah, just be yourself. Because like I said, our natural state is happiness and enlightenment because God wanted to live. Every child born is that wish fulfilled. So boom, we're naturally happy. And yeah, so yeah, that's all I got. I kind of been roaming around the same idea, but yeah, we're in the state of global change, which is so surreal. So yeah, express your love, express your light. It's okay to feel down. Everybody has a shadow. I remember the book back in the day. It was about playing with your shadow, how everybody had a shadow. I really enjoyed that book. But yeah, make your own zen, be curious, and all that good stuff. Rom'n out. This is a remastered version of the song Music in Veins. Walking in the woods, no, I never done that before. But the woods is a place that I wanted to go. On with the road, you know we call it a life. Who put all the potholes there? Man, it's nice and tidy for my dance moves. Hey, we bump, yeah. Crystal, please come clear. All the bullshit in the road, I swear we do not fear. Oh, 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 yeah, 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 whoa, oh, yeah, yeah. And we just sitting down on the land, humankind growing, chilling.